Here we have another example of a human rights abuse in Canada in terms of not having a legal identity to be part of society. A legal identity means having government issued photo ID with an address on it, and people's mobility rights or freedom of movement is also being violated in Canada, not necessarily by the federal government of Canada, but at the provincial level, full of discrimination. And this just to shows you how capitalism works. In a capitalistic society, people need money to spend. If you don't have money to spend on credit cards, bank debit cards, or don't have money to spend and you don't have invoices or bills because you don't have any money to spend, well, you're screwed in terms of being part of society, having government issued photo ID, a legal identity in order to move on with your life. This type of thing would never happen in China. In China, mainland China and Hong Kong, everybody is entitled to government issued photo ID. It goes so far in Hong Kong that every Hong Kong resident is required to carry a Hong Kong identity card when you leave your own home. In mainland China, every Chinese citizen also has an identity card, but it's not a requirement if you to carry it outside of your home if you don't plan on doing any driving. You don't in mainland China, people only need government issued photo ID if you're going to use like banking services, any government service, or drive your car, which you'll be carrying a driver's license. But in mainland China, Hong Kong, everybody is entitled to government issued photo ID, and this will never be a problem in China. But in Western countries, it is a problem, and this is just a human rights abuse. Just this whole thing is just deranged and disorganized. Western countries seriously look at themselves before talking about China. So over here, there's a case here that I found online on Reddit. It's titled ICBC, Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, which manages driver licensing, BC Services Card, and BC Identity Card applications. They're basically the main contact for people and the government for government issued photo ID with an address on it. So it says ICBC refuses to issue driver's license and BC health card. Friend is going to be homeless soon. So when people don't have a government issued photo ID, they're not able to be part of society, access financial services, have a credit account of any kind. So let's check what it says. So ICBC took away my friend's driver's license and BC health card. My friend is about to be homeless now. Let's call this friend X. 2.5 years ago, X lost their driver's license and tried to get a replacement by showing their passport, showing proof of identity and age and your photo. Look at the passport photo on it. So then the ICBC employee who has no idea what they're doing flips through this guy's passport and says, "Oh, you have a 2-year working holiday visa from another country in your passport. Oh, you're no longer a BC resident, no longer an ordinary resident of BC, and he's no longer able to get government issued photo ID." So just going back to China again, this would never happen in Hong Kong or mainland China or even Macau. Everybody is entitled to government issued photo ID over there. So this guy returns from the other country. Working holiday visa is now elapsed. It's no longer valid, and they look for an excuse saying that, oh, he can't prove that he's a resident of BC, which actually means ordinary resident of BC, which is a common law term, and which is set out. Common law sets out the criteria for the term ordinary resident. Ordinary resident is not defined by an act or ordinance or any statute. Okay, it's not defined by the government. It's defined by the judicial system based on case law. So this guy is basically homeless now, can't get government issued ID. So when originally this guy walked in ICBC and tried to get government issued photo ID. He said, "Oh, he's not a resident because he has a resident status at the federal level of another country." And then 2.5 years later, or whatever, or 6 months later, he goes back, and now they say, "Oh, you have to show proof that you're ordinary resident of BC." But how are you going to show proof that you're in Canada when 6 months ago they said, "Oh, you're in another country and you this is just a range." So let's just say Ireland. I know Ireland has a working holiday agreement with Canada. So this guy this guy has an Irish visa in his Canadian passport. ICBC tells them, "Oh, you're an Irish resident. You don't belong here because we see this in your passport, so we can't give it to you." But then when his working holiday visa expired and he can no longer go back to Ireland, ICBC says, "Oh, you have to show proof that you were here in Canada." This is just hypocritical. No point. And this guy's just at this stage. It says X gives up. So basically, this is ICBC and the government of British Columbia, government of the province of British Columbia, has created hostile environment policy in order to frustrate people, make life as difficult, hard, and miserable as possible, in the hopes that people voluntarily leave the province of BC or Canada altogether. So this just speaks for how friendly government Canada in general is. So if Canada's already treating Canadian citizens like this, just imagine how it go for all those new immigrants, 500,000 new immigrants going to Canada a year. This is just a hostile environment policy. Canada does not care about immigrants or care about integrating immigrants at all. They just want to drain the life savings of immigrants so that they can no longer live in Canada and return back to their home country, whatever home country they're from. Canada already treats Canadian citizens like this, denying them the right to be part of society. Just imagine how it go for immigrants. This is just deranged.